Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to a very special edition of the Jazz Albums Review Series. And today I am going to be taking a look at the very small and impressive catalogue from one of the greatest, most celebrated, decorated, iconic and respected drummers of all time. And he is one of the true legends of the drum kit. And in my opinion, he is one of the finest musicians to ever come out of the UK. And is a gentleman who needs no introduction whatsoever. I am talking about, of course, the one and only drummer, bandleader, composer, the legendary Simon Phillips. And this is a follow-up edition to the last one that I did about Simon Phillips, where I talked about his latest recording for 2022, which was Protocol V. And I mentioned at the end that I was going to be taking a look at Simon Phillips' entire catalogue of albums that he has released as Protocol. And as always, I am going to be talking about each album individually, which consists of 5 recordings in total, and I'll be choosing which one I think is the best one. Not an easy challenge, especially with a catalogue as strong as this. All 5 albums are excellent, well produced, well written, and well recorded, and they feature some of the finest musicians in the world, from Andy Timmons to Steve Weingart, to Otmaro Ruiz, to Greg Howe, to Dennis Hamm, to Ernest Tibbs, to name a few. And there's been a couple of lineup changes along the way with Protocol, but I'm not going to lie. Each lineup is very strong, very different, but it's all good. Nothing bad to say about this little catalogue of albums. All of the musicians all bring their A game, and Simon Phillips really shows you that he can put together a hell of a band. And all 5 of these albums showcase how great Simon Phillips is, not only as a band leader, but as a drummer, and more importantly, as a composer. So, Protocol started out in 1989 as a solo project for Simon Phillips, which was more or less like a one-man band sort of affair. So Simon Phillips played drums, and he played a variety of different instruments, and then after that he took a break and was a very in-demand session drummer, played with lots of different people, from Michael Schenker to Derek Sherinian to The Who to Toto, to name a few. Simon Phillips has seen it all, done it all, and played with everyone. And it wasn't until 2013 that Simon Phillips decided to revive the Protocol project and turn it into a serious band. And as I said earlier, this is a serious band of some outstanding musicians. So what we're going to do is, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about each album individually, and we're going to start with the first album, which came out in 1989, and this is Protocol. So as I mentioned, this is just more or less a solo project for Simon Phillips. Simon Phillips is on drums, plays a keyboard, plays a bit of everything, and it's a decent album. It's a good debut for Simon Phillips. You could argue that this was kind of like his first solo album. You know, he'd been around since the late 60s, but this was like the first time that, after more than 20 years, that Simon Phillips decided to release an album under his name. And as I said, the music's pretty strong. It's of the time. It was the 80s, but there's some good playing here, some great drumming. And as I said, this is kind of like a little warm-up for what was to come years later. But it's really good. I think it's pretty decent. So we can have a quick look. There's the kit. Some sleeve notes and production notes from Simon Phillips. And all of the compositions are written and composed by Simon Phillips himself. So we've got here Streetwise, Red Rocks, Protocol, Slow Funk, V8 and Wall Street. As I said, some good tracks, it's good playing, it's off the time, but it's quite enjoyable, I think. Standout tracks for me are Streetwise, Red Rocks, Protocol and Wall Street, but highly enjoyable, very hard album to find. Protocol has just recently been reissued, and there's like 4 or 5 bonus tracks, so definitely worth checking out just to get those bonus tracks. And for those who are hardcore fans of Simon Phillips, it's a great place to start, and it's really good. So there you have it. Simon Phillips Protocol Call it Protocol 1, 1989. Good start for Simon Phillips. So Simon Phillips will take a break. As I said, highly in demand drummer, played with everyone, and then he would revive Protocol in 2013 and assemble his first serious band. So call it Protocol 1, but it's credited as Protocol 2. So this is going to bring us to the next album, as I mentioned, which was released in 2013, and that's Protocol 2. So this is a quartet album, features Simon Phillips on drums, Andy Timmons on guitars, Steve Weingart on keyboards, and Ernest Tibbs on bass. An excellent recording, one of the best Protocol albums of the entire catalogue, one of my favourites as well. And there's some great playing from Steve Weingart, unbelievable guitar playing from Andy Timmons. And Ernest Tibbs, he's kind of like the key player in this entire Protocol project. He would be the one guy who's been in every single incarnation and lineup of Protocol. And you could kind of argue that the core of Protocol is Simon Phillips and Ernest Tibbs, because he's like the most consistent member of this entire project. He's a fantastic bass player, very reliable. He's played with a lot of people, Greg Howe, Alan Holdsworth, to name a few. You know, he's a really, really good bass player. And Steve Weingart's keyboard playing would help set the tone for what Protocol would be all about. He adds a lot of sounds and colouring and texturals. Unbelievable keyboard player. And, you know, he's a real difference maker here. And Andy Timmons' guitar playing brings more of that rock edge feel to it. And you could argue that Protocol 2 is kind of like more of a heavy rock album. I mean, there is jazz influences there, but there's some strong rock influence in there as well. And a lot of that is down to Andy Timmons, I would say. So we're going to have a look. Some sleeve notes there from Simon Phillips. There's the pictures of the guys. Really good, strong collection of songs here. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the Dave Weckl band in some ways, you know, that sort of like atmospheric, lots of heavy drum chops, but really, really good here. So most of the compositions are either written by Simon Phillips or they're co-composed with Phillips, Steve Weingart, Andy Timmons, and Ernest Tibbs, but really outstanding album. So we got Wildfire, Soothsayer, Gemini, Moments of Fortune, Upside and Downside Up, First Orbit, Octopia, and Enigma. So a lot of the songs are quite long. You know, we're looking around about 9 minutes, 8 minutes, 7 minutes. You know, they're quite long songs, but really good stuff here. So standout tracks for me are Moments of Fortune, Wildfire, Soothsayer, Octopia, and Enigma. But there's no bad song on Protocol 2. It's really, really good, and, you know, absolutely fantastic. And, you know, as I said, Simon Phillips Protocol started in '89 as more of a solo project for Simon Phillips, and now he's just turned it into a serious band. And quite frankly, best decision he ever made. Really, really good this is. So highly recommend you check this out. There you have it, Protocol 2. So this lineup would stay together for quite some time, and this brings us to the next album, which was released in 2015, and this is Protocol 3. So Protocol 3, same lineup, Simon Phillips, Andy Timmons, Steve Weingart, and Ernest Tibbs. So this is a great follow-up to Protocol 2, and it's more or less like a continuation of that heavy rock influence that, you know, Andy Timmons brought to the band. And in some ways, I kind of look at this lineup of Protocol as the classic lineup with Phillips, Timmons, Weingart, and Tibbs. You know, some very good, strong collection of musicians here. So, as always, most of the compositions are either written by Simon Phillips or co-composed with Timmons, Phillips, and Tibbs, but outstanding. That's all I can say. So, there's the guys. There's the sleeve notes, production notes. So we got Narmada, Imaginary Ways, Outlaw, Catalyst, Amarita, Circle 7, You Can't But You Can, and Undercover. Outstanding, I would say. Standout tracks for me are Imaginary Ways, Undercover, You Can't But You Can, Circle 7, and Catalyst, but highly enjoyable. As I said, great follow-up to Protocol 2, and you can't go wrong. When you got Steve Weingart on keyboards, you know you're getting the best. And even Ernest Tibbs as well. Andy Timmons, just ferocious, really channeling that rock spirit that he can only deliver. Really, really good stuff here. So Simon Phillips would change the lineup. Steve Weingart and Andy Timmons would leave, with Ernest Tibbs as the holdout from the previous lineup. And this would bring us to the next album, which was released in 2017. And this is Protocol 4. So, as I said, Andy Timmons and Steve Weingart are gone, and now we've got Dennis Hamm and Greg Howe. You know, no offense to Andy Timmons, done a great job on the earlier Protocol albums 2 and 3, but Greg Howe is just a monster guitar player. And unfortunately, this is the only album he's featured on, but boy, big step up. And, you know, it's hard, you know, when you get these guitar players, like, you know, you got Andy Timmons, you know, made these great albums. How do you follow him up? You follow up with Greg Howe. I do miss Steve Weingart on here. I thought he was a really good keyboard player. I thought he really made the difference for Protocol, but Dennis Hamm does a fantastic job here. You know, he's a really good keyboard player. So the lineup here for Protocol 4 is Simon Phillips, Ernest Tibbs, Greg Howe, and Dennis Hamm. Really good, strong album here. So here we are. There, Protocol 4. And most of the songs are written and composed by Simon Phillips, but really good. But you can see that Simon Phillips is more or less taking the main lead composing role, because if you looked at the previous 2 albums, Timmons, Weingart, and Tibbs, they co-wrote a lot of the stuff, but here's all Simon Phillips compositions, but really, really good. So it's a real true band effort here, and it's the Simon Phillips show as well. So we got Nimbus, Pentacle, Passage to Agra, Solitaire, Interlude, Celtic Run, All Things Considered, Phantom Voyage, and Azores. Really, really good album this is. Some great guitar playing from Greg Howe and some great keyboard playing from Dennis Hamm. Ernest Tibbs is just laying down the grooves on bass. Simon Phillips is all over this album, and rightly so, on the drums. Yeah, great follow-up to Protocol 2 and 3. Do miss the other guys, don't get me wrong, but this just shows you that, you know, the musicians are different, but the outcome's the same. All good music. So the standout tracks to me are, I would say, are Nimbus, Passage to Agra, Solitaire, Celtic Run, and All Things Considered, and Phantom Voyage. But again, good strong collection of songs. What more can you say, really? Simon Phillips Protocol just moves forward, changing their sound, but you still know it's them. But as I said, Greg Howe, very different guitar player to Andy Timmons, but at the same time, a total badass. Unbelievable. So there you have it. Protocol 4. Excellent stuff. And now it brings us to the latest album, which I already talked about, which came out still fresh in 2022. And the lineup's changed once again for Protocol. And this is Protocol 5. In my opinion, this could very well be the best lineup of musicians that Simon Phillips has put together. And what more can you say, really? You know, the lineup's always changed, but it just continues to get better and better. The bar just keeps going up and up and up. Really, really good stuff here. So Simon Phillips has expanded Protocol into a quintet. So we've now got guitars and saxophone now. So the lineup we've got here is still Ernest Tibbs on bass. We've got the amazing Otmaro Ruiz on keyboards, Jacob Scesney on saxophones, and the incredible Alex Sill on guitars. And as I mentioned in the last review where I talked about Protocol 5, think of Protocol 5 as kind of like a continuation of the Chick Corea Electric Band, say around about 1991, 1992 time. You know, very, very close to that classic jazz fusion electric band sort of style. So if you like the electric band, you're going to love this. This is really, really good. And as I said, out of all of the Protocol lineups, this could very well be the best one. So we've got here Jaganifa, Isocales, Nyanga, Under Virginity, When the Cat's Away, Dark Star, The Long Road Home. Outstanding album this is. So we'll just have a look. So there's Protocol 5. There's the current incarnation. There's some sleeve notes here, but it's an unbelievable album. You know, I think this could very well be the best Protocol album of the 5, in my opinion. As I mentioned, the classic lineup is, of course, Andy Timmons, Steve Weingart, and Ernest Tibbs. But this lineup is pretty damn close. Really, really close. Really strong collection of musicians here. So the standout tracks for me are Jaganifa, The Long Road Home, Dark Star, Isocales, and When the Cat's Away. But it's a fantastic album. And, you know, as I said, perhaps the best Simon Phillips Protocol album out of the entire catalogue of 5 recordings. And if I have to go with the best album of the catalogue, definitely going with Protocol 5. No question about it. You know, fantastic lineup. And as I said, Simon Phillips has put together an amazing band. So I'm going with Protocol 5. Unbelievable. So there you have it. All 5 albums by Simon Phillips. What more can you say, really? A fantastic collection of musicians and a very small but strong catalogue. And, you know, all 5 recordings are great. But as I said, going with Protocol 5 as, you know, the best album of the 5. So that's going to be it for me. I am going to wrap this up now. What's your favourite Protocol recording from Simon Phillips? Is it the first one? Is it the second one? Is it the third one? Or the fourth one? Or do you like the 5th one? And what's your favourite lineup of Protocol? Do you like the lineup with Andy Timmons, Steve Weingart, and Ernest Tibbs? Or do you like the other lineup with Dennis Hamm, Ernest Tibbs, and Greg Howe? Or do you like the current lineup with Otmaro Ruiz, Alex Sill, Jacob Scesney, and Ernest Tibbs? There's no right or wrong answer. We all have our favourite lineups. We all have our favourite albums. You know what to do. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below. And there will be a follow-up edition where I will be taking a look at the solo recordings of Simon Phillips. So make sure you don't miss that. So until next time, take care everybody and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.